spider menace. Governments around the world launch investigations into the murderer known as Spider-Man, a.k.a. Peter Parker, a.k.a. the web-headed war criminal who for years has been terrorizing the decent citizens of New York. Well, now this city and the world see him for what he truly is.
Okay, let's all go. Let's go.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies, and specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, aka TV's Travis. This is episode number 277. And our movie this week is Spider-Man No Way Home from the MCU. And here to talk with me about it, to wrap up the trilogy of movies we started quite a while back, it's Nizzbit. Nizzbit, how are you?
Good. Yes, it's been a while, like a year, I think, but then things have been happening with me at work, so it's been a bit of a trip, and understandable why it took us so long to get here. So
Sure, yeah. But we got started because you had not seen any of the Sony MCU Holland
yes,
Spider-Man movies,
yes.
so we watched.
And I foolishly opened my mouth, and you said, "Oh, hey, well, that's good for 3 episodes," and we did 2, and then here we are for the third one.
Yeah. So we did watch Homecoming. We enjoyed that. And we did watch Far From Home. That was a lot of fun. And here we are, third part in the trilogy, No Way Home. Now, before we get started, if you haven't seen this movie and you don't want to be spoiled about things that happen in this movie, and you haven't been spoiled already, we're going to. There's no way around that. The movie's been out for a couple of years now, and there's memes all over the internet, but I still want to put that right up front because there is stuff that happened in this movie that some people might get upset if they got it spoiled for them. So
this is a well, since we've been talking about this, I've been sort of going out of my way to try to not wind up with any spoilers for this. Not entirely avoidable.
Sure.
Just saying, because like you said, there's the memes, there's everything else. There's also the specials, and then the interviews. They'll talk about some of that too. Like I just from like the trailers, I kind of knew what the premise was anyway. So it's like seeing the interviews of the 3 guys. It's like, okay, well, done. And then just hearing some of the technical details in the interviews of how they did some of the stuff. I mean, yeah, that kind of spoiled some of it, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, whatever.
It was sort of one of those things where like there was stuff getting spoiled, and it's kind of impossible to avoid, but at the same time, it still, for me, had quite the impact. So what I want to know first is, for you, seeing this for the first time now, what did you think?
I enjoyed it. It was pretty much everything I expected it to be, based on what I had known about and what had been spoiled for me.
Okay.
But I mean, it's like broad stuff that
Sure.
got spoiled. Not like the nitty gritty stuff. So like getting to see all the details was really cool. I do appreciate how it pretty much dovetailed right into the back end of Far From Home. That was a very, very nice touch that they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually remember sitting in the theater thinking, oh, that's great. It's literally picking up from the very last frames of Far From Home and just jumping right into it. I liked that because we've already had our time jump. We're already, a couple of years ahead chronologically anyway, so there's no sense in beating around the bush on that. So
you could literally have taken off the intro to Far From Home, from No Way Home, and the end of No Way Home, and just splice the 2 movies together for the 5-hour trip, and you wouldn't have known.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they actually managed to do it that well.
It was great, and it's such. I love Marvel openings when they do something a little bit different. Like I like showing the Marvel logo but giving us different audio instead of the Marvel fanfare. Not every movie, but I do like when they do that in certain movies. And here it really fit the tone, right? We're getting those audio bits from the end of Far From Home. It's kind of like doing that with Endgame. Endgame did that, and it was really successful.
And you perk up too. You really take notice when they don't do the fanfare.
Well, because immediately you're drawn in. Now it's like, oh, what are they doing? It's different.
Yeah. Exactly.
So Yeah, that worked really well. Now, you hadn't seen the Holland films prior to us watching them, but did you watch the Sam Raimi trilogy and or the Andrew
I
Garfield?
had seen the first one. I had only like within like the last year saw the third one.
Okay.
I had seen bits and pieces of two of Sam Raimi. Um, I had intended on seeing the Andrew Garfield ones, never got around to it, but I also know because I have access to Disney Plus, I'm going to be watching them at some point in the near future.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, this movie in particular kind of made me want to actually go through and watch the ones I had missed and not seen all of. Go back and actually watch them through because I mean, obviously they're different. They're different takes on the same character.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just getting to see the different um, things that they had done.
Yeah.
I mean, they allude to all five movies within that movie, so it's like, okay, well, I can kind of guess what they did and whatnot, what the end result is, and it's like, okay, well, whatever. For me, it's like, well, whatever. I know the beginning and I know the end. I don't have anything else in between.
Fair.
So it's like having the mystery sandwich and only knowing what kind of bread you're getting.
Kind of, yeah. I will say you don't need to have watched those movies to appreciate this one, but there's so many small details they did in here that, and
Yes.
all of the callbacks and all of the extra stuff. What I liked though is, for the most part, none of the stuff they did in this movie felt like pure fan service. There was fan service, don't get me wrong. Like there were lines of dialogue that were put in there specifically because that's the famous line that somebody said in a movie or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of stuff they did to work it in narratively, reasoning for what they were showing, what they were doing, that I really did kind of like.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that
and
was
then the
really
fact
cool.
that Watts gave them the ability to, for a few takes, just freaking ad lib.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then just really go at it. And then I know some of those takes made it into the final cut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the hug
then,
was one of those.
yeah, I want to say yeah. I know, like that. Well, so I think what it was, if I remember from an interview, the hug made it in because of something because they had done that off camera, and I guess everybody's like, nope, we're putting that in. Just do this on here on the set, and we'll just catch it on camera.
Yeah, no, I could see
cool.
that. I think,
yeah, because it feels like they had, like, when they had all met, they had an appreciation for the job that the other two had done,
mm-hmm.
and just took this movie as the gift as it was for all three of them.
Yeah, because if you think about, so that's the big kind of thing that happened here, was we got all three of our iterations of live action Spider-Man from the last 20 something years in one movie. We saw Tobey Maguire, we see Andrew Garfield's take on him. And there are three very different ways to portray Peter Parker and Spider-Man while all being the same character.
Yes.
I also love little things like Andrew Garfield shows up and he's in the Spider-Man suit and he wears it basically, except for the part where he's got the lab coat over it, he's always in the suit. And part of that's kind of a subtle, not so subtle way of like, because he was really good as Spider-Man, but his Peter Parker was fine. His Peter Parker felt different because he didn't feel like the comic Peter Parker, although in a way he was, and he was kind of a more updated version to fit the time frame. But like,
that's kind of what
but his Spider-Man was really well received and really well done. And then you had Tobey Maguire, who spends most of the movie in civilian clothes, which I love the line from Andrew Garfield. I did capture it. I'll play it later about, did you bring your suit or not? And he's got it underneath.
He just does this.
Yeah. But I like that because Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker was very comic accurate, and his Spider-Man was too, but his Spider-Man never felt quite the same as his Parker did. And then you had Tom Holland, who flips between suits and stuff all the time, and I thought he was the best mix of being Peter Parker and being Spider-Man. But he's such a different version. Like, he is so unsure of himself for so much of these movies, in
And I mean,
comparison to Garfield, who is a little more confident of a Spider-Man.
yeah. Well, and for me, I mean, Tom Holland's Spider-Man feels more like if exactly how it's portrayed, how it's. And he does it well enough portraying a Peter Parker who is in high school
Mhm.
and is still navigating his way through, approaching adulthood. And oh, by the way, he is also having to navigate being a superhero.
Yeah.
And balancing all of that.
And I think a
Whereas,
big part of that is Tom Holland being, younger, being in
yes,
his late teens to early 20s as he was making these movies, as opposed
yeah,
to having to be 28, 29, playing an 18-year-old.
yeah,
There's just a difference there. There's just an authenticity to him. And that's to take nothing away from Maguire or Garfield, who I like both of them. And getting to see all three of them here and the different versions of them was great, because Peter Parker is such a positive character.
mm-hmm,
And
yep.
like, I adored the scene of the three of them
Oh,
just on the Statue of Liberty before the final climax happens, just sitting there
and they hug.
talking.
Oh yeah, yes,
Like
yeah, absolutely, that was great.
that scene is so good because it's what would happen with those three guys.
Oh yeah,
And the
absolutely.
fact that, like, here's Andrew Garfield being like, I'm the lame one of the three. I don't have, like, I fought a guy in a mechanical rhino. I didn't get to fight aliens or any of that. And
Yeah.
and Maguire immediately is like, no, hold on now. No, wait a minute.
He's like,
You're
no, no, no,
amazing.
no, no. Hold
No,
on.
you're
Yeah,
great.
you're
You're
amazing.
amazing. Like, they're boosting each other up, and like they have. I
Yep.
love the conversation about the organic web shooters when that finally comes
Mhm.
about.
That
It takes
was.
forever to go. It was
It's
so
like
good.
it's like one of those. It's like, really, this is the way you guys are going to take that. But okay, sure, we can go completely awkward because again, that's how the three Peters would have done it.
And all three of them, they bring something different, but they bring something really great to it, because you've got they're basically three brothers, and Tobey Maguire gets to be the older brother,
Yep.
and he's the oldest of the Spider-Men. I like having the fact that they didn't do anything, because they did digitally de-age Doc Ock and Green Goblin. Willem Dafoe
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Alfred Molina got a little digital de-aging done to them.
De-aging, yeah,
Um,
and knowing roughly how both of them look now, it's painfully obvious. But I mean, it's really only if you know what you're looking for.
I mean, yes, but also, like, narratively, it makes sense why they would have to do that,
Narratively
because
makes
they're
sense.
gonna grab, like, so magic happens and all these things get pulled in from the multiverse, which is
Yeah.
great because you get the immediate hand waving of like, it's magic, doesn't matter. But
Yep.
like, the way that I read it is, the spell, when it pulled them in, it pulled them in from their most recent moment in their timeline, right? So for Doc Ock, it's moments before he died,
Yeah.
and for Green Goblin, it's right before he died. But
Yep.
but Garfield and Maguire as Peter are older because they've been around,
Yeah.
so they're their
Yep.
current ages. So like,
Which is
Tobey
telling
Maguire's-
when Tobey Maguire talks about his back. It's like, yep, nope. I see what you did there, Marvel.
which is also a very good art imitating life, imitating art, imitating life thing, because
Yes.
in between Spider-Man 1 and 2, he supposedly or he hurt his back,
Yeah.
and so he almost didn't come back for Spider-Man 2. Now there's
Oh,
rumor
wow.
that maybe it was a negotiating ploy to get more money. I don't know that I buy that or not, but he basically he had messed his back up a little bit, and so he wasn't sure if he was going to come back, and so they worked that into the script of Spider-Man 2, where he has a moment where he wrecks his back. So then bringing that back in here, I thought was really funny. But
Yeah.
there's so many great character moments, and I want to get to some of those with these three, but there's so many. It's so easy for a film to get overstuffed and just be a mess. And Spider-Man 3 is kind of the prime example of that, right? Like,
Yeah.
Sam Raimi, when he was making Spider-Man 3, had an idea. He wanted to do the story. He wanted Sandman to be the villain. He wanted that to be the story. And at the time, the studio was like, yeah, but we want Venom. Venom's going to sell more toys. Venom's going to sell more tickets, all that kind of stuff. He's like, but I don't want to tell Venom's story. I want to tell Sandman's story.
Yeah.
And they were like, you're putting Venom in the movie, so he's fine, you want Venom in the movie, I'll put him in the movie. And that Spider-Man 3 suffered from having just too much going on between
Oh yeah.
Harry Osborn, Venom, and Sandman, and it
Mm-hmm.
was too
It
much,
was a
and so
bit
nobody
much.
got
It's
enough.
too much. Yeah.
Somehow, this movie has 5 villains in it
It makes it work.
because they focused on specific ones to make them the focal point instead
Yeah.
of, oh, like Spider-Man 3, its focal point is Sandman for so long, but then all of a sudden it's like at the end, oh, but yeah, we got Venom here and we're going to show him and then
Yeah.
get rid of him immediately. Like that was just, it felt added on. Here,
Yeah.
this felt like at whatever point in the script writing process they settled on these 5 villains, they then
So
said, okay, how do we use them properly? How do we get them all integrated in a way that
yeah.
works while also minimizing, like, uh, Lizard is there, but he doesn't do a whole lot, but he doesn't need
Yeah.
to.
So I will freely admit that part of me really, really wanted for part of this movie to be a redemption arc for all of them, from
Mhm.
basically going from the villain to hero. Like part of me really, really wanted that because so much of the Tom Holland universe sort of breaks the mold a bit. So I kind of was really, really hoping for that. I mean, even with Far From Home, I was hoping for that too. I mean, obviously it didn't happen, but I mean, like
But I think,
watching everybody, the only one I didn't really buy like that was going to be a possible route was weirdly enough, um, was Osborn, was the Green Goblin, because it felt like being it was a put on. It felt like it was a put on.
yeah, it's interesting though, because I think what we did get was, if you go back to Amazing Spider-Man, both Lizard and Electro get killed by the end of them.
Yeah.
If you go to Spider-Man 2, Doc Ock dies at the end of that. Green Goblin
Hmm.
gets killed at the end of Spider-Man. Sandman is the only one that didn't die,
Yeah.
but he just sort of disappeared at the end. He goes. And
Yeah.
so
He
what
just
was nice about it
yeah.
was we did somewhat get, not so much like the heroic redemption arc, but Spider-Man in all his iterations got to sort of set things in a better path and give them the
Hmm.
chance for redemption for all of them.
Yeah.
And that was a nice thing, because in Spider-Man 2, Doc Ock does get a little bit of like last minute redemption, but it's a self-sacrifice type of redemption. He,
Yeah.
at the very end, realizes or overcomes the issue that he had with the tentacles and saves the day by sacrificing himself. Well, here he gets to not only work with Peter, because the relationship between Peter Parker and Otto was a friendly one until the AIs kind of took over him and the tentacles got
Yeah.
a hold of him. So here he gets to fully do that and fully
Yeah.
redeem and help himself out. Like Electro does get the nice redemption of, he gets that moment with Peter after they remove the electricity from him, where he's just like, well, I'm a nobody again. He go and Peter's like, no, you were never a
Right.
nobody.
No.
You know, that wasn't the
Yeah.
thing. But like he gets a little bit of that and gets to kind of come out of where he was. We don't get to see it with Lizard, but part of that was a technical, like logistical issue. So if you
Yeah.
noticed, and I'm sure you did, I didn't clock this the first time I saw the movie. It just didn't really click at the time, but when I thought about it
Yeah.
more, it seemed interesting. Lizard and Sandman, they brought everybody back. So it
Yep.
was Reese Ifans and Thomas Hayden Church doing those 2 roles, but they
Mhm.
stayed
Yep.
CG throughout the whole thing. Sandman never looks like his human self at any point until the very end of the movie.
Very, very end. Yeah.
That's because Thomas Hayden Church and Reese Ifans couldn't be on set for whatever reason,
Oh.
scheduling or something. So the shots of Lizard reverting back to his human form are from the Amazing Spider-Man. They reused footage from that. And the same thing with Flint Marko. When Flint Marko changes back at the end inside the statue and then we don't see him again, that was reused
Yeah.
footage from Spider-Man 3, and they didn't have the ability to shoot anything else with them live action. So all they did was voice work for the
Oh.
movie. So knowing that, it was kind of like, oh, okay, now I get why he's always in his sand form.
Yeah.
But it was still great that they were able to, do the voice work for those roles.
Yeah.
because that I think added a lot to it. But like getting
Oh yeah.
getting
What?
Jamie Foxx back, getting Alfred Molina back, and then Willem Dafoe. Willem
Yeah.
Dafoe is
Oh God.
so
His
good.
Green Goblin is just when I first saw the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man, I
Mhm.
had gotten absolute chills from Defoe's Green Goblin because it felt real. It felt like he had actually, like Defoe had actually gone and had that psychotic break. I
Mhm.
mean, clearly the man really didn't, but I mean, it felt a
Yeah.
little almost too real. But it felt very, very real, and he did not lose it for this one.
No, and the
He
thing with
he
him,
clearly did not lose his touch.
Willem Dafoe is such a good actor and
Oh, he
has
is.
so much range. Like he will do movies like The Lighthouse or
Mm-hmm.
these weird Lars von Trier things like Antichrist and all this kind of like just way out there, seriously crazy stuff. And also be able to do campy things like Green Goblin in the first Spider-Man movie because he's leaning full into the camp and the silliness of that character. Or his role in something like Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Like he can be very funny too. He's got both sides of that. What I liked here, because him as the Green Goblin in Spider-Man was great, and I loved
Yeah.
leaning into the campy aspect of it. His laugh, that Green Goblin laugh is incredible. He played the two personalities so well. The one issue I
Mm-hmm.
always had with it was I didn't love the helmet because it felt just cheap to me. the
Oh yeah. No,
the
no.
helmet and the way you could see his mouth moving inside of the behind the grate on the helmet and all that kind of stuff. So to have him show up in this movie as have that reveal, and then the next time we see him, he's smashing the helmet, and
Mm-hmm.
it's still Norman Osborn and Green Goblin
Yep.
fighting for control. And
Yep.
you're right in that there's kind of always that feel of it's a put on, but you also don't really know. And here was a really cool, very subtle thing that you may not have noticed consciously.
Well, it felt like his attempt, like the quote unquote attempt at redemption. Once they had gotten out of the magical cage, felt like a put on. Like he was like only
Oh yeah, oh
pretending.
yeah. So here's
So
the cool thing though, from a technical aspect. Um, you may not have noticed this consciously, but Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin have different teeth. When Norman is in control, when it's the Norman personality, Willem Dafoe wore fake teeth that gave him very straight teeth. And when he's the Green Goblin, he took those out, and his natural
no,
teeth are a little more jagged
teeth.
and a little more off, and it
Yeah.
gives him just that more menacing look. And I paid
Yeah.
attention watching it this time to that, and sure enough, when he goes Green Goblin, it's true. You see that, and
Yeah.
you see the difference in it, and like that's a small thing that again visually something's different about his face, but you're not clocking that because it's not like a huge change.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
I,
like the redemption thing, the Green Goblin was always there, kind of sitting in the background, waiting for his
yeah.
moment to strike.
Yeah. But like everybody else felt like there was at least an attempt at redemption or whatever
Hmm.
before the Green Goblin sort of got to them.
Yeah,
Um,
in a lot of
but
ways.
yeah, I do sort of like at the end where after the fight with Electro and he's seeing all three of them without their masks on. And he's like, I thought you were black. Like he's like, you're from Queens, you're whatever. It's like, I thought you were black. It's like, well, okay, well, there's a Miles Morales call out.
Yeah, and I
It's
loved his
like
reasoning. You're from Queens, you help poor
Queens,
people, you wear that
well,
suit. Like
boot.
it's great.
It's like okay. On the one hand, ew, but on the other hand, I get it.
Yeah,
At least there's a reason. But it's, at the same time, it just felt little weird to hear that. But yeah, as soon as was saying all that, it's like, okay, no, that's a Miles Morales thing
also
for sure.
here's an interesting thing too is all of the villains get some form of redemption and get kind of saved, quote unquote, or
Yeah,
have something about them nullified, right? Like Electro gets all the
yeah,
electricity and the power taken out of him, and that sort of nullifies his hunger for more power and
yeah,
allows Max Dillon to kind of calm down, right? Sandman
yeah,
loses that ability, he's fine. Lizard's no longer a lizard.
Yeah.
all of that. Green Goblin, however, while he saves Norman Osborn, he kills Green Goblin with that anti-serum. He takes
Yes.
Green Goblin completely out of the picture. So
Yes.
I kind of like how that went as well.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of fitting.
Well, and then with Octavius, was that like was he actually redeemed like way at the beginning? Because I couldn't tell if that was like because did the Electro's thing did that actually undo that chip or did
No.
that like okay? I didn't think so because it felt like it could have gone either way.
Yeah, no,
Like to me
he definitely
for that his
when they put the new inhibitor chip in, um, that reset everything and he was fine and in control again and he could control the arms because there's AI in those tentacles. And what had
yeah
happened in Spider-Man 2 is he had an inhibitor chip that got fried, and when that happened, that AI could now talk back to him and kind of take over the higher brain functions, and that's what made him into the villainous
okay
incarnation.
okay
And by quieting that down and giving him back the control and the agency, he went back to being Otto Octavius, who was a
yeah
good person.
yeah
So yeah, I enjoyed that part of things quite a bit. But
yeah
I really loved that, like, one of the big regrets or one of the big things for Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was the inability to save Norman at the end of the first movie,
yes
right? And
yeah
while Spider-Man didn't kill him, he didn't rescue. He wasn't able to redeem him either. So this was big
yeah
for Tobey to be able to his Peter Parker to be able to have that. So it was fitting, obviously that he would be the one to stop Tom Holland's Peter
well
from taking the sled to
yeah.
him.
Well, and then I liked how Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man also had sort of his own redemption moment with being able to save MJ.
Yes. Oh,
So
like
that was also nice to really nice to see.
that was such a good moment. And here's the best
Even
part about
you could
those
see
two.
him. Yeah,
Yeah, those two scenes. So Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man saving MJ, and original recipe Spider-Man stopping Peter from stabbing Green Goblin and killing him. Both
yeah.
of those are so well done with no words from either man. No
Right.
words from either Spider-Man,
Well,
just a look.
I think it's also telling about their talent as an actor too, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just that understated thing of being able to say 1,000 words with just a look.
Yeah.
It's that ability to go, hey, I get it with just a glance at another person,
Yeah. Like,
and that's kind of what I got out of him saving MJ, out of Tobey Maguire, stopping Holland from from killing Norman. You know, you could see all of that, like Maguire's face. When he's looking at Holland, he's going, I know what the hell you're going through. Don't do this. You will regret it if you do it.
you will regret it, and it's not what we do.
It's not what we do.
And it was so good.
Um,
And the way Garfield's Spider-Man saves MJ, because he's got that redemption moment, he dives.
mhm.
It's exactly like the situation with Gwen,
Situation, then
and he doesn't rely on his webbing there. He grabs her
that's her.
and uses
And
the webbing to
then,
slow them
yeah,
down.
yep.
And when they hit the ground and he's like, "Are you okay?" and just the look. And I mean,
Yeah.
look, I started tearing up in the theater watching that moment
I
because
started tearing up too while watching it, so I get
it's
it.
it's just such an emotional moment for that character. That character got
Oh, yeah, for sure.
to save his basically his brother's
Hmm.
friend. Something that
Yes.
he couldn't have, he was able to give to his brother. And was so powerful. There were so many of those moments too, because we haven't even gotten to the real emotional moment of the movie, which
Nope.
is Aunt
No.
May.
Yep. Oh,
Because
yeah. That's the elephant in the room. But so before we go there,
okay,
the other really rough part for me was at the very beginning where he's trying to deal with all the school stuff
oh right,
and Flash Thompson after his identity is revealed to everybody. Like, that was honestly the hardest part for me to watch, because it's like, okay, this is going to really screw with him in a very, very bad way.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah.
can kind of tell that with the way that Tom Holland's acting is. It's like, you can kind of tell he's like, okay, this is really not fun. Like,
Right.
Peter has this look of, okay, I want to get get the hell out of here now, but I can't. And I
I
would like to
also
leave now.
yes. I also absolutely love that these 3 movies all kept Peter in high school, and
Yes.
at least part of all of them has him literally physically in the school at some
It's cool.
point. I
And
really
I love the
enjoyed that.
fact, yeah, well, and I do love the fact that they literally threw him in the equivalent to the midtown to school that Peter Parker is going to in the movies. They
Yep.
literally threw him for a week into a real life equivalent of that school.
Yeah, that was very
And
smart.
then, well, because he had made an off comment like, ha ha ha, wouldn't it be funny if I went and did this? And like all of the producers and directors said, that's a great idea. Here you go.
And all the stuff at the school is always great. Like
Yeah.
the teachers with
Oh,
what's
the
his
coach,
name?
the principal, and then the teacher.
Yeah, all 3 of them, JB Smoove and Hannibal,
Yeah.
Hannibal Buress, and why can't I remember the other guy? But all 3 of them just crack me up. Like,
Yeah.
of course, the coach is the conspiracy theorist, and like,
Right.
Mysterio was right, and all that kind of stuff. And they're just so
It's like
goofy, and I love them. I absolutely love them. And you got, all the students, like half of them love Peter, half of them hate Peter.
Yep. Well, and it was funny too because I had noticed this as I was watching it, and I didn't write it down, but I did notice it. It stuck in my head for some reason. You had the teacher the teacher who was very, very pro Spider-Man, and then you had the conspiracy theorist coach who was very anti Spider-Man, and then you had the principal in the middle going, "Okay, I just want to navigate this really dumbass situation.
Yep.
Can we please have some civility in this?"
Yeah, exactly. That was great. All right, so some of our side characters that we haven't talked about yet, but I love everything to deal with Aunt May and Happy Hogan. First of all,
right.
They're
okay. Well, that relationship is like, okay, no, that makes sense.
It does,
considering
they're so good. Like that first scene with them when Peter. So right in the opening of the movie, when Peter and MJ get back to the apartment. And then we cut to them talking as she's breaking up with Happy, and he's standing in the hallway, and he's like, I'm sorry, I could have been better. I could have done this better. And he's trying to be, he's trying to save the situation while not being overly pushy. And she's just like, it's all right, man. Don't worry about it, kind of thing. And then they hear the noise, and he's like, ooh, what's that? He's got to go into Happy Hogan mode and help out and be head of security guy again. And there's an absolutely brilliant, subtle thing that I didn't notice this the first time because I wasn't paying attention to May. When they walk into the room and like they open up the door and there's Peter and MJ, and then Peter's in his underwear, and they're like, oh no, and they go to close it, but then they walk back in, and she's like, oh, you must be MJ and all that. She turns around towards Hogan and mouths without saying anything, "This is really awkward. You should leave." And it cracks me up now. I cannot unsee that because you got MJ, and you can hear Happy and Peter all talking, and she's saying this to Happy without actually saying anything, and it killed me.
The funny part of that scene for me that I cracked up about was the fact that you have Tom Holland there and nothing but his underwear.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
and MJ just standing there looking like she's seen him do that like every day for just a regular occurrence for her.
Mm-hmm.
And like everybody else going, what the hell?
Yep. And then she hands him the t-shirt, and it's the exact same t-shirt that he got in Homecoming coming back from the ferry.
Yep.
Which was great.
Yep.
Then all that stuff in the house and all of that was just there was that great one shot tracking where he's going around closing all the windows as you've got May and Happy kind of bickering and talking in the background, and
Yep.
it was so good. But Marissa Tomei as Aunt
I
May.
love Marissa Tomei. I love her as Aunt May. I'm so mad. So mad about. Yeah.
So
we'll get there, but I'm
she's
so mad.
fantastic in everything. But she is so good as May because
Oh, she is.
she's such a different iteration of Aunt May than we've seen live action, and that's taking nothing away from either actress that played Aunt May beforehand, but she felt like period appropriate for the movie and the time that it came out, and she was the exact parental figure that Peter needs, Tom Holland needs in these movies, because she is incredibly supportive. She knows what's going on. She's real smart. She's the moral compass. Like all of these things. She gets to be
she reminds me of, she reminds me of like a younger, hip version of Aunt May, but I'm trying to remember which comic version she most reminds me of. Because I know there's like one where it's a younger version of Aunt May, and I'm just trying to remember.
That might be Ultimate, like Ultimate Spider-Man, maybe.
What I was thinking too, but I went and quickly looked, and no, like the way that she looks is still older with gray hair.
I don't know.
Like, I don't know why. It may have been one of the animated ones then.
It could be.
Just, because it just harkened me back to something that I had seen, of a different May.
Yeah. But she's such because Uncle Ben in the Raimi trilogy, he's only technically in the first movie, but obviously they keep referencing him in the other two. But he was that moral compass.
Mm-hmm.
And he does the same function in Amazing Spider-Man, but having that, instead of having it be Uncle Ben and Aunt May, it's just May.
That's Aunt May.
And she doesn't just stay at home and be around the house all the time. She's doing stuff, and she's running that organization and helping people out and all this kind of thing. And she is what keeps Peter being like, you can tell Peter got his altruism and his positive attitude from her.
Yeah. Well, and so like you're talking about like the organization that she helped run, because I think she was doing that all three movies.
Yeah.
Right. So I just was thinking about it this movie because of like the prominence of like the trucks and Feast being on all the trucks on that one truck. But I do wonder if at some point they're going to wind up having one with Mr. Negative, with Martin Lee.
I don't know. That'd be interesting.
Because I know was it the Insomniac Spider-Man, like the first one, Feast is like headed up by by Martin Lee.
Be interesting. I mean, they're always pulling in characters and having them, show up around places. So
yeah,
it'd be kind of cool to even just a name drop would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Even just a name drop would be cool. And then her death, though, is like, okay, well, that's about as big of a gut punch as you can get. It's like, well, that was about as bad as Ben Parker died.
And here's the thing. I should have seen it coming in the theater.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Really?
I didn't until after Goblin leaves. So up until the point of like all through that fight in the condo, which by the way, as fight scenes go in like these kinds of movies, that one was so good because of just
it was really good.
Oh, just the ruthlessness of Goblin. Plus, it has there's a shot in that fight where Peter's got Norman in a kind of backed into a corner and he's punching him, and we see him punch him like 3 times. And he hits him, and each time he hits him, his grin just gets bigger and he gets more unhinged. And it's just like, oh my goodness, that is so good.
It's funny too, because like I could kind of see it, and I kind of guessed it was going to happen. In that fight, probably one because I had heard that was going to be Tomei's last movie in the MCU. but also because just the way that the fight started in the apartment, in the
Yeah,
condo. Like
yeah.
it started off bad enough that you could tell that she was probably not going to make it out of that fight alive. Like they
Well,
were just going to find a way to do it.
I think it's because as I was watching it for the first time, I'm like, oh no, May's not going to make it. And they get all the way through all of that fighting, and they're down in the lobby of the building, and the thing hits her, and then he's like, you can thank me later, blah blah blah, takes off, and she gets back up, and I'm thinking, okay, we haven't had that like sudden, um we don't get the like, oh, everything's fine, ooh, quick cut, she gets
Yeah,
stabbed by something or something explodes.
yeah.
It was the way that it unfolded that I think I wasn't prepared for, because
Oh,
she
yeah.
doesn't,
No, that
it's
part.
not the
Yeah.
sudden death all of
No,
like out of
it's not.
nowhere. It's this slow,
It's the blood loss.
yeah, and it's that
It's the
slow
blood loss moment.
progression.
It's
It's
just,
just,
it's just
oh,
like
it was rough. And
it
I
was
mean, she
very
gets
rough.
to say the line, which everyone always attributes to
Yeah,
Uncle Ben
Ben.
because it was in the
She gets to say
movies.
the line. Yeah,
She gets it here, which is super impactful because obviously she's the one that has to tell it to this Spider-Man.
yeah,
And it's what breaks him. Like, Peter has lost everything now. He's
yeah.
like,
Well,
he
not
almost
everything yet,
everything.
but
He's
yes, yeah,
but May was so important to him and such an emotional um bedrock for him, and now she's gone, and he's going to feel like it's his fault because there was nothing he could do about that.
yeah.
So it's that
Right.
low point, which gives us, then when we see him again on the roof of the school, and that whole scene is just heartbreaking because
Yeah. Oh yeah.
he like, it's the first time we've really seen, because we've seen Tom Holland's Peter Parker be down on
Hmm.
himself and have,
Yeah.
have questions, but
Or have Tony Stark beat down on him a bit.
right, but we've never seen him give up. And on the
Yeah. And
rooftop,
here he
he
just gave up.
yeah,
I'm
he was
done
done.
being good. Yeah.
Yep.
Um. Yeah. I'm gonna miss Tomei. Seeing Tomei in the movies because she did a very very fantastic May. I
Oh yeah. Oh,
hope they kind of part of me hopes they could find a way to bring her back, but it's like no, she died. May
she
died.
did, and the impact of that needs to, if they continue with this iteration of Spider-Man, she needs to
Which they
stay that
should.
way. They should.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if they
And
do, she needs to stay gone because that impact has to be there.
Yeah.
And but yeah,
And
she's just
I'll be honest,
fantastic.
I'm glad that they didn't have that impact in the first movie and they waited until now to have that impact.
Oh, for sure.
Because up until this point, Peter is still in that state of okay, he still needs that moral compass that she provides. And it's not only just now as he's basically becoming an adult that they're like, okay, now she can leave.
Yep.
Like now it's safe for him to lose her, which is really cool.
It also it also is a thing where in the comics and in every iteration of Spider-Man, it's always, Aunt May's always been there. And
Yes.
so he always lost Uncle Ben, but he
Mhm.
had Aunt May. And because part of Uncle Ben's death in the comics and by extension in the movies was part of Spider-Man's origin, we know Uncle Ben is important, but we don't get the emotional attachment to him because he's gone
That
so
we do
early
with
in the
May.
narrative.
Yeah.
Here we've got May for multiple movies before we lose her. So we're attached to her.
Yeah. I did like another side character. First of all, Jonah Jameson, I do
Oh, so
appreciate
good.
that. So for him, I love the fact that they brought back Simmons,
Yep.
J.K. Simmons, because he also did it for I think Sam Raimi's
Yes.
as well. And
Yep.
then since I haven't watched it, you can tell me, but I don't know if he shows up as Jameson in the Garfield ones.
I don't believe so because most of those don't deal with the Daily Bugle. But bringing him back, but then also making him like a
stroke of genius.
it's brilliant, first of all, because he's so perfect for that role, but then altering the backstory just a little bit. So instead of him being the editor of a newspaper, he's like an online news media pundit, like conspiracy theory, filming out of his basement type guy. Very, I think it was, obviously modeled after somebody like an Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Complete even with like hawking his supplements on his stream, which was just, chef's kiss.
Very good.
But
Very good.
J.K. Simmons is just fantastic, and he's perfect in that role, and he just chews it up. He's so good, so good.
And I love how he hams it up, but he doesn't do it so much so that it's unbelievable. He nails it just right in both Sam Raimi's and in this one.
Oh yeah, he fits the material perfectly.
Like it nails it. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful every single time.
And you've also got Jacob Batalon as Ned and Zendaya as MJ. Now Jacob Batalon is fantastic. He's always great as Ned.
Oh, he's always been great.
And I adore him, and it's great. Like his interactions with the other Peters are always fun. But then, listen, Zendaya, holy crap, is she good? Like,
yeah, she was good in this one. I enjoyed her a lot in this one.
She does a little bit of everything here. She's funny.
Yeah,
she's smart. She's smart-assed, and her wit is very quick. And it's like, it's the character that she's been, but there's emotional moments in this that are so good. And the three of them together, that moment when they go back to Peter on the rooftop after he's lost May, they find him there and they go up and it's just this big group hug. And it's like, it's all three of them, because all three are important to each other. It's not just MJ and Peter.
And all three in Aunt May was important to all three of them, for very different reasons. Well, and I think the thing I see with Zendaya's MJ, the entire trilogy I've enjoyed watching her, because she goes from this very acerbic, sarcastic, and dry wit person, that's on this debate team or whatever. And then she goes to, basically becoming his girlfriend at some point, I think in the second movie it was or whatever. And then then she just hits her stride in this one. And it's great. Like she hits the kind of MJ that, people kind of, I think, would have expected. But she grows into that. Like the character sort of grows into that, and that was really nice to see. So seeing her hit that stride just right off the back this time around, it's like, okay, this is pleasing to watch.
Yeah, and her reaction at the very end to the whole, well, you're gonna forget who I am. It feels good, and it helps too that her and Tom Holland were dating while making this, and the chemistry between the two of them is just spot on.
And you can kind of tell that they were dating.
But their chemistry is just so good on screen, and they work so well together. Plus, I love that they had to use some old school movie magic to make her not look taller than Tom Holland and Tobey Maguire, because she is. Just always kind of cracks me up. And you also had Benedict Cumberbatch, Stephen Strange, who isn't in the movie a ton, but he's in it for a little bit, and he's from a narrative aspect too. It works. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, with him and with Wong. Yeah, no, they're not. Wong's it just for a minute, and that's fine because it works beautifully. With Strange, with Cumberbatch, it's like, you're right. He's not in it a ton, but where he is in it, it's like, okay, it moves everything along. He's not just there to blah. It's nope. We're here and we're going to move this plot along to the next thing.
And it also, him going to that spell and being like, yeah, we can do this, and sort of just being very cavalier about casting this very difficult spell fits with Stephen Strange. It makes sense for that character. And I got to play this because a good bit of the audio that I captured was him for some reason. He's just funny and he's written really well. But
Well, he plays him. Cumberbatch also plays him very well too.
oh, he does.
So I mean, it's like, okay, well, I even after the first Strange movie, it's like, okay, I really can't see anybody else playing him.
It's hard.
Even before that one, like, because I knew Cumberbatch from, I think he was, I don't remember where else I saw him, but like in the back of my mind, it's like, okay, well, no, there's our Doctor Strange. Like, there's our Stephen Strange.
There's so many good like little things too throughout this movie that that just add extra to it. Like when Steven's coming floating down the stairs when Peter first shows up and he's got his cup of coffee and then he hits the bottom of the stairs and has that little slide on the snow.
Yep. Or, like, I always wondered if that was like a goof that got caught on camera or if that was like intentional. But like, honestly, either way, it it made it better.
Yeah, it's just a little subtle thing. Even like when Peter goes to the bridge to talk to that lady, the MIT lady, and he takes off his spider suit and he's got the suit underneath and it's all wrinkled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it would
that was a great touch. That was a really great touch.
Not only would it be wrinkled because it was crammed under that suit, but also Peter's a kid. He's 17, 18 years old. He's not going to think to press his suit before doing this. Yeah. He's just going to throw it on and then go, because that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and then the MIT lady, and then the MIT lady looking at him and kind of being impressed by the fact that he's coming up to her, going to her and begging, not for himself, but for his friends.
Yeah. While also kind of giving him a little bit of like, you're looking a little rough there, kid. Like a little wrinkled. But no, so Peter goes to, so Peter's identity is given out. Everyone in the world now knows it. And they get rejected from school. So his thought is to go to Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And get a spell to basically make everyone forget that he's Peter Parker. And I loved it because they go to cast the spell and immediately he's like, hold on, wait, no, nobody will know it. You know, this person needs to know. And like every time he does that, Steven's getting more and more annoyed with him. And when they end it, they end all of that. And Peter just is like,
did it work?
No. You changed my spell 6 times.
5 times.
6 times. 5 times. That was good. But then after that, when this is actually, I think, very clever writing, because all of this has happened, and then in a throwaway manner, Steven's like, well, if you pledge your case and they still said no, then you've done everything you can. And Peter being like, wait, what now? I could have called them and talked to them and tried to talk them into it. Like, I could do that.
That felt
so real. Because again, he's 17. How the hell would he? He wouldn't think that. So it makes perfect sense for him to go straight to the nuclear option, and to have Strange call it out and just be like,
"Are you telling me that you didn't even think to plead your case with them first before you asked me to brainwash the entire world?"
I mean, when you put it like that.
It's like, oh, well, so the MIT lady, the actress, Paula Newsome, it was bothering me because of she felt very, very familiar as an actress to me.
Mm-hmm.
So while we've been talking, I've been kind of like looking it up.
Okay.
So yeah, she has actually been in a few things I have seen.
Okay.
Because she was in an episode of Friends. She was in 4 episodes of NCIS during some of the earlier years because she played the director's wife.
Yep.
She's judging Amy. I mean, she's just had these like 1 or 2 episode bits. You know? But like she's just a very familiar face. It's just with these bit parts that just shows up once or twice in a series.
And I liked her reading Flash's book in the car.
Right? That was a very nice touch. That was a very, very nice touch.
Also, like, again, Cumberbatch just killing it as Stephen Strange. Like,
oh, absolutely.
I mean, I've got some more audio. I want to play some of these because these are too good not to. When he Wong and him are standing there, they're talking to Peter, and Peter mentions or Wong mentions being the Sorcerer Supreme.
The Sorcerer Supreme has higher duties, yes.
Wait, I thought you were the Sorcerer Supreme.
No, he got it on a technicality because I blipped for 5 years.
Oh no.
It's like, oh yeah, he did blip for 5 years. Wait,
Yep.
why would that? Oh yeah, okay.
Yep, technically he was dead. And then when what? Well, first of all, Benedict Wong, just put him in everything. Benedict Wong can do nothing wrong at all.
Yeah.
That
is a very good scene. They are very good together.
And when he's going to leave, and Strange is like, no, I can do the spell to make people forget, and you just get.
We've used it for a lot less. Do you remember the full moon party at Carmitage? Oh, exactly.
Like, it's just those two are so good. If there was anything, I will say this: if there was anything that I would have cut from this movie for time, and I don't want,
because 2.5 hours is long.
It is long.
2.5 hours is a bit long.
And I don't want to lose the moment because visually it's just so good. It would have been Strange versus Spider-Man in the mirror dimension.
Oh yeah,
is the only thing that you could have cut. Now I wouldn't, because I wouldn't want to lose that, because there's some great stuff there. Like, for instance, at the beginning part of that, when they're first outside the sanctum, and Spider-Man goes to get away, and Steven gives him the whole like astral body punch, right, and knocks Peter out. Did you notice around Peter were the old school spider sense waves around his head?
I did.
Like, that was so great. And then on top of that, you've got his body instinctively moving the box away from Steven the whole time, which just cracked me up. And
I was just trying to figure out like the not the technical, how that would have been happening in that universe. So I'm like, no, that fits.
Well, because it's his instinct working for him. But I love Steven's.
You should not be able to do that.
You should not be able to do that as he's trying to grab it. Was so good. But we needed some way to get Steven out of the picture for Peter to do everything else that he was doing. So I get that. And plus, like, just Spider-Man trapped in the mirror dimension with Stephen Strange was great, and the fact that he beats him by using geometry,
right?
It's using math, like
it's using math. It's like, hey kids, if you ever want a reason why you need to know math, here you go.
There's a reason to learn geometry in case you get stuck in the mirror dimension by a sorcerer. You can get out of it with your webbing. But I did love, like, and so he uses that, traps him, which means we get this great moment right at the end when Steven does come back.
I've been dangling over the Grand Canyon for 12 hours.
I know.
It's like, hold on, wait, you've been sitting there, why were you, like, my first thought was, wait, you just stayed there for 12 hours? You couldn't get yourself out?
It was also,
hang on a second,
wonderful callback to Thor Ragnarok and Loki.
Oh yeah.
I've been falling for 30 minutes. 30 minutes. So that was good. And then I also, because the friendship between Steven and Peter throughout the movies has been great, and there's always just that fun banter of, like, they don't know what to call each other. Yeah, because he had that hilarious moment in Infinity War where he's like, Doctor Strange, oh, we're using our made-up names, okay, well. And so then, of course, Peter, being the kid that he is, he calls him sir, and he's like, don't call me sir. All right, Steven. It feels weird, but okay. And then when he gets pissed at him, he's like, no, you call me sir. And all this stuff. So right at the end, one more time.
Thank you, Steven.
Yeah. Still feels weird.
Still feels weird. Not going to get used to it.
Nope.
Okay. I mean, there's so many good, like, little moments in here. I did get.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm not going to not get the laugh.
Right.
I have to capture that.
And this movie was also really, really cool on a technical level too, because you had the Statue of Liberty that they apparently cleaned off, like, did a really deep scrub because it was bronze again and not that
it was
oxidized copper look.
Yeah, it was straight copper.
Which is like, Yeah, it was straight copper, not the bronze. Because like, hang on a second, either they tore it down and then redid it, or somebody went through with a sandblaster and did the entire fucking thing.
Which,
Pardon language. Which, okay, but that's going to be expensive and painful and just not fun for anybody.
Yeah, but it was a great. It was also a great way to use the Statue of Liberty for your climactic scene
Yes.
and have a purpose narratively for why nobody's there because it's being renovated. So
Renovated, yeah.
smart on their part.
Yeah.
All right, so the movie did definitely do like we're gonna play the hits, right? We've got these characters that you know. There's gonna be some fan service. So Green Goblin's here. We've all seen the meme. We all know the meme, but he's gonna say it anyway, and so he does. I should not like this. Like on paper, thinking about it, it should annoy me, but it doesn't at all
Yeah.
because Willem Dafoe's just too good. And so when he's stuck in that cage and he just says,
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
like, it's so cheeseball, but I dug it. It was great.
Yeah, it works. I don't know. There's a lot of things that work with William Dafoe that just would not work with other people.
Yeah, he's real
Just
good.
for whatever reason, it just like whenever he does that, it works. But like if you were to say have Reed Richards say, it's like,
Yeah. No, the delivery
this
from
is
the
like-
actor makes a huge difference.
yeah. But yeah, it was nice that they had a try to use the Statue of Liberty, but like knowing a bit about the Statue of Liberty, it bugged me to no end that it was back in the copper look.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
but they were
it bugged
restoring
me
it,
to no
so
end. Yeah, they were restoring it. But yeah, it just because it's like, it's green, it's oxidized copper.
Okay. By the way, Electro. One of the cool things about Electro. So I don't know if you saw Amazing Spider-Man 2 or not, but Jamie Foxx is
not yet.
yeah. So this honestly really is a better, or at least it helps to redeem that character a little more in terms of I just think he was better utilized here in the short amount of time he's on screen. Plus, he's got a little bit better of a look. And I loved how there was a narrative reason for his coloring to go from blue to yellow. Because in the comics, Electro is yellow. And then in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, he's blue.
It's just the universal electrical whatever, right?
So yeah, it's the arc reactor, right? Because he mentions how the power feels different, and then we see him see the little mini arc reactor and be like, "Ooh, that's why it felt different." And that sort of gives you the idea, like Tony's technology is in the power grid, so that arc reactor technology and that arc reactor power is there, and then it gives him the yellow energy, which was really cool. Plus, getting like the yellow energy, kind of creating his little star crown around his face.
Oh yeah,
was really cool.
Yeah.
But I also like how the movie wasn't afraid to poke fun at the silly origin stories of comic book villains. And you get that moment between Electro and Sandman where he's just like,
I fell into a vat of electric eels.
You're kidding. I fell into a super collider.
Damn. Gotta be careful where you fall.
It's just, I loved it. I loved that. Plus his introduction. So Peter goes out into the woods, he's fighting him. And when he finally fully forms into Jamie Foxx and he's standing there in front of the two of them and you just get...
Y'all just gonna stand here and act like I ain't butt-ass naked?
I am.
No.
And then giving him the line workers uniform was nice because that's part of his comic origin.
That was brilliant. That was rather brilliant. That was a nice touch.
Mm-hmm. I dug that.
I think mostly just because of what it meant story-wise. I think what the hardest bit for me to watch from an emotional standpoint was just that second to last scene where he is in the donut shop, the coffee shop again.
Oh, that whole, yeah.
And
that's
seeing
just heartbreaking.
MJ again, and then she not knowing who he is. And but him wanting to go, hey, like him wanting to keep his promise to her that he had made to her, you know,
Yep.
and then her waving, you know, what looks towards him, but then you see Ned walking behind him, and then them going over to talk or whatever, and then her coming back, you know, and then just seeing, you know, Tom Holland's, you know, Peter just looking like he'd just been shot through the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
realizing.
she can't understand why, but there's like
Yeah.
a weird sense of almost deja vu when he's leaving,
Huh?
but
Yep.
kind of not. And it's the curse of Peter Parker, right? He's cursed to kind of be alone in a lot of ways because it's the choice he makes. It's the same as Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker telling MJ at the end of, I think, the second movie that he doesn't love her, or the end of the first movie that he doesn't love her, right? Because he can't be with her because he has to protect her, and to protect her he has to keep that from her. And here's Tom Holland having to do basically the same thing by breaking a promise he made, and she may never, depending on how the story plays out, she may never know that he made that promise, let alone break it. But he will, and he has to live with that, and he still cares about them. Like, it's just, it was so
very, very heartbreaking.
It's
it was
heartbreaking,
so heartbreaking,
and it's so well performed.
It
Both
is.
of them
It really
are
is.
so good in it. Just absolutely amazing.
And I like the fact that the camera then pointedly looked at him, the camera pointed at his pocket as he's putting that paper into his pocket.
Oh yeah.
Because it felt like, okay, he's willing to give that up to keep them safe. You know, he's willing to, you know, do what needs to be done to keep them both safe, knowing that they'll be okay.
Yeah.
You know, they're good because they're both made it into MIT. They're both doing fine. You know, he's happy that they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You can see that. You can very, very clearly see that.
He's happy that they're going to be okay, but he's heartbroken that he can't be a part of their life.
Yeah. And you can sort of see that in his steps as he's like turns around to walk away. The other really interesting touch too was the last scene where he gets that new apartment.
Yep. Yeah,
and
we get the
I could be wrong, but it felt like that was the apartment was very, very similar to the one with Tommy to the Sam Raimi apartment.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. It's the comic book apartment.
It felt like it was like that apartment. Like you could have done that scene, but with Tobey Maguire, and shove that into the Sam Raimi Spider-Man's, and it'd be the same apartment.
Right down to hearing the landlord as he's going in being like, rent's first of the month type of thing. Like,
yep.
That was really nice. It was a good bookend and a good way to finish that out. And one last thing I want to say about MJ too. She's got a couple, like, I love the moment on the roof early on when she's reading the newspaper article and she just says,
Yes, my Spider Lord.
Was a great line. And again, there's their chemistry, but then the moment where he tells her, you're going to forget me. Like, everybody's going to forget who I am. It's the only way I can kind of set everything right and save everybody. And she delivers this line.
I don't want to do that.
It was just, you could feel the emotion there.
Well, and I like the way that they sort of dovetail into that. I mean, because he does that because he sees that reality is basically breaking.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all these other extra dimensional beings coming in because of his screw up. And I like from the technical aspect of how they handled reality breaking.
Yeah.
Because that was because you had that sort of digitally like look where it was just sort of tearing
open.
As if, tearing open.
All the kind of silhouettes showing through, and you could sort of see what some of the characters were, but not completely, not all of them. I really like that. Plus, from a story standpoint, earlier on in the movie, Peter goes to do this thing, screws everything up, and what does she tell him? Like, hey, in the future, if you're going to make some sort of a weird decision that's going to break the universe or whatever, talk to us first. We can discuss it. We can workshop it. We can figure it out.
Yeah.
And he gets another situation like that, and he can't do that. He doesn't do that.
Yeah.
In part because he knows that if he does tell them ahead of time, they're going to try and work it out
Yeah.
and figure it out, and he just
And
can't. They just can't.
Yeah.
So
they just can't. They just don't have the time to.
Nope. So again, that's him making that decision and knowing what the outcome is going to be, but having to do it because it's the only way to save everybody and put everything right. So yeah, that was real good.
I did like how they handled the credits for this one, because it was all those geometrical shapes and stuff. It was so cool, and they did it in that that hand drawn art style. It was really cool to see. Really funny to see too, but like it fit because you could see all the geometric stuff from when they were in the mirror dimension. It was just harkening back to that. It was great. I love that.
It was.
And then the post-credit scene, as they normally do in the MCU stuff, I mean, that was very, very good. It's like, okay, well, you can kind of tell where they're going with it, and I hope that they can just string it out for more than just one freaking movie.
I also like how it's Venom and he's in Mexico, and rather than like traveling to try and figure anything out right away, Eddie and Venom just sort of stayed in Mexico drinking for a few days. And then just as they're
to understand,
just trying to understand what's going on, and when they finally decide they're going to go do something about it, they get sucked back to their own universe. Like that was great.
And then the little piece, I don't know if and then the little piece that gets left behind. But that's like the part because it's going to go try and find Peter.
Mm-hmm.
You know he's going to wind up with that in the next movie.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
And at the same time, like for me, I want them to utilize that in more than just one movie, because that Tom Holland's Spider-Man would.
Yeah, I'm curious how that's all going to go with the next Venom film, if that's going to play into it at all or not. We'll see. There was one other cameo, by the way, in this that I had heard rumor of, but it was a great cameo, and that was Matt Murdock. Charlie Cox showing up as Matt Murdock was awesome. Was real good.
Who was the actor?
Charlie Cox, who played he played Matt Murdock in the Daredevil series on Netflix. That's now on now it's on Disney Plus, and he'll be playing him again in they're doing a new Daredevil series coming out later this year or early next year, Daredevil Born Again. And he also did a short appearance in She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. But this was before both of those new appearances. And it was just great because it was just a fun way to tie those two together. And I loved when he catches...
How did you just do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
He catches that brick, which originally was a snow globe, is what they shot with, that he catches. And they digitally changed it to a brick because they realized the snow globe, like in universe, would have broken going through the window.
Yeah.
So they changed it to be a brick, but I really liked that. And just that whole scene was great. And yeah, Peter's reactions that moment is fantastic. And it's just,
I love
it's a nice little moment. And then we just move on. He's not there anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I like the fact that, in this one, because some movies, even today, you can kind of tell when they're using a green screen. Mm-hmm. This one, like, there are some shots that that they would have had to have, like him bouncing along, on the highway and whatnot, but still not being able to tell that they used a green screen.
Yeah, the effects, the visual effects in this movie, I think I read something where somebody had said in an interview there were only like a couple of hundred shots that didn't have some sort of visual effects on them. It was like 2,500 shots or something in the movie did. So I don't remember the numbers now, but it was most of the movie did. And they honestly look real good all the way through. There's a few times where it's like, but on the whole,
times you can tell, but
real solid work all the way through.
It was,
and I love that. I have two other audio clips I have to play. I have to play these both.
That's fair.
This first one is because, as somebody who was a fan of basketball,
Oh God.
When Peter and MJ land on top of the Queensboro Bridge, and then he calls Ned, and you just get this exchange.
Dude! Dude!
Greatest conversation ever, consisting of a single word. Loved it.
Right?
Loved it absolutely. I've also had
And
that
you can
conversation.
you can tell that because I've also had that conversation, because it typically happens with me with people I've known for a while, and we just know what the other person's going to say. I mean, one word sentences. Like I've had that, like my old location, because I moved locations at my job. My old location, our automation guy, I had that conversation with him at work.
Yep.
It was just us. I think may have been 10 words total, and that was just one word at a time. We just knew what the other was trying to say. It's like, okay.
Yeah. No, it's great. All right, last audio clip. I got to play this one because it's the line. It's the line. It's the Spider-Man moment. It's Aunt May. So hold it together, but you get this, and it's such a good delivery too.
And with great power, there must also come great responsibility.
And again, that's always attributed to Uncle Ben, because that's who said it in the movies. And actually, in the original comic,
real comics. I was gonna say the comics is where I was going to go with.
Yeah, in the comics, it was just a like editorial, or not editorial, but like a omniscient narrator block.
Yeah,
saying it at the end of the first appearance of Spider-Man. But just such a good line, and she nails it. She nails it, and it's got so much impact.
So I'll confess, part of the reason why I want to see, because I had always intended on seeing the Amazing Spider-Man movies, especially the first one, because of Martin Sheen playing Uncle Ben.
Oh yeah, he's great. I really liked Martin Sheen quite a bit.
I wanted to see him do that, because I don't think there's very many like things that he's done where his character has died.
Not as many, no. He's no Sean Bean, that's for sure.
No. There's been a few, but not that many.
So, okay. In the Tom Holland trilogy of Spider-Man movies, now that you have seen all three, where would you put this in that list of three?
Either one or two.
Okay.
Top or second, because I think it would just depend on which aspect we're talking about, because it would contest with Far From Home. Like, Homecoming was just rough enough, just a little, I'm not going to say unpolished, but just Peter's felt a little too untested still.
Okay.
That it doesn't quite hit the same way.
That's fair.
Far From Home and No Way Home, especially because they both take place after Endgame, it feels like he's been blooded and tested enough that it feels right. And again, a lot of that has to do with Endgame and Infinity War.
Yeah, they do a bit of lifting there for sure. But what's nice is you can jump into this trilogy of movies. You don't have to see anything else to get the full impact, but you get so much more with Infinity War and Endgame as part of it. And then if you did watch the Raimi trilogy and you watch the Garfield movies, you're getting stuff stacked on, and it's just adding bits and pieces to it, and there's just so much more going on here. I really enjoy this movie on a whole, and then as a Spider-Man movie, I think because it brings so much together, and it finds those main Spider-Man themes, those themes of responsibility and power, but also of like loss and dealing with that, and dealing with the duality of being Peter Parker and being Spider-Man, and can those two things coincide? So and then it's just the performances. I mean, all three Spider-Men are great. Like they're all great in different ways, and then their interactions with each other are fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you add in all your side characters, then your villains, and every one of the villains in this.
Right. And this, it's weird to say this about a movie, but this movie fit like a glove over itself.
Mm-hmm.
It really did. It had, I think it was probably a combination of just when in the MCU it was the actors, the story, the villain. I mean, just everything coming together to make it fit like a glove. Like, this was definitely not an accident. You know,
No.
This was very, very much meticulously planned out and thought over and workshopped and just gone over with a fine-tooth comb. Even though there's plenty of sections where they ad-libbed. Like, everything still hit the way it needed to. Everything still just felt the way it needed to. Everything impacted the way it needed to.
I think also it helps that John Watts got to direct all three movies in this trilogy.
Yes. Yes.
Because if you look at so Captain America has a trilogy, but that had different directors for, it had different director for Joel Johnston for the first, and then the Russos for the next two. And you had the Thor movies have had three different directors over 4 movies. The Iron Man movies were Favreau and then Shane Black. Like nobody got to do a full trilogy of movies.
Except for John Watts.
But John Watts did, and I do think that helps a lot because, again, if they don't continue this story on for whatever reason, if they decide to take Spider-Man in a different direction or bring someone else in as a director or whatever, then John Watts and Tom Holland got to do a great trilogy of movies and give it a nice send-off and a nice moment where now they can go anywhere. Now you can Tom Holland can come back, but you can bring in a different director and have a different thing going on, and that's fine because Watts got to tell his stories and got to tell a full arc, and there's a clean break point here that is a comic book style clean break point that I don't think feels forced into this movie.
No. This felt good. This one felt really good. And I hope, honestly, I'll be honest, I hope John Watts continue to make more of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. I do hope, that the next one involves, the symbiote suit, for more than just the one movie,
I would like to see it.
Because I'll be honest, that is easily a trilogy arc on its own. Easily.
Yes, which was my big issue with Spider-Man 3 and Sony pushing so much to have Venom in the movie was Sam Raimi wanted the black suit. He wanted the symbiote. He didn't want Venom yet because it wasn't time for that. You needed to let that build. And no, I'm with that. Like, it needs to be more than a single movie.
I'll be honest, I kind of hope they don't actually bring in Venom for the MCU. I hope they just have it be the black suit. I really do hope they just break the mold on that one.
I mean, they could.
Because every single universe, there's a Venom. But it'd be nice to see one where Venom just isn't there, but the black suit is.
It'll be curious, right? Because Venom is such a well-known name, and you just know that that's going to happen. But you've got things like Flash can be around to be anti-Venom.
Yep.
And
and my other reasoning too is that, like, even in the original comics, I mean, that was what, a 10 issue arc?
I think so.
By itself, it was like a really long arc.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I just really hope they break the mold a little bit and just decide not to use Venom. Because he's in all of the animated versions. He's in the Sam Raimi one. He's in, the latest Spider-Man game. He's in the Ultimate one. He's in the original PlayStation game. I mean, he's everywhere. Just to one where he's not there.
Yeah, Green Goblin might be like one of the oldest Spider-Man villains, but Venom is sort of Spider-Man's. I don't want to say Spider-Man's Joker, but he kind of is in that like
No,
it's
calling
hard
him
to
his Joker would be appropriate. No,
like
calling him his Joker would be appropriate.
yeah, like it's just hard to do. It's hard for anybody to try and break away from that because that's what
Yeah.
people want to see. But we need something different. I did find it interesting. This was the 5th Marvel movie and the 4th MCU movie released in 2021 alone.
Wow. What were
Because
the others?
that year had Black Widow, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, The Eternals, and Venom Let There Be Carnage were all released in 2021 before this. So 3 other MCU movies plus the second Venom movie. And
I
then
forget,
this.
was this filmed during COVID?
It was.
Then?
It was. And this was actually filmed after, I think, Uncharted finished filming for Tom Holland, but it got released before Uncharted. And so, but it was filmed during COVID, and that was another part of like there were a lot more restrictions on who could be on set and all that kind of stuff. So
but they made it work really, really nicely.
Oh
Still, even with filming during COVID.
Oh
like, honestly, without the date, I honestly could not tell that it was filmed during COVID.
No, it was.
They just did that well that good of a job.
It also was the highest grossing film of 2021 after its opening weekend. The highest grossing film of the year after its opening weekend, which, again, sliding scale because of the way theaters were at that point completely. But I think this is one of the better MCU films kind of overall, but definitely in the last couple of years, I think. And I am the rare person who has really enjoyed all of the MCU stuff that's come out.
I have enjoyed everything that I have seen so far. There's not been a single MCU movie that I have seen so far that I did not like.
Yeah, like I went and saw the Eternals. I liked the Eternals. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I liked Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Going to be talking about that in a couple of episodes, actually. So stay tuned for that. But like, I've liked all of the stuff, but this one just had a little something extra in it. And going back and rewatching it for this was a lot of fun. And I'm really glad that you finally got to see it, and we got to close the book on this trilogy.
Right after a year, but who's counting?
Yeah, it's fine. It took them 6 years to make the trilogy. We took a year to watch it. No problem.
Yeah, it's no big deal. But yeah, I for me, it's this is also like for me, it's also very, very unusual since I'm not a huge comic book movie fan to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I blame the original rounds of the Batman movies for that, because I was not a huge fan of those.
Okay.
But like, so it took me a little bit to get into the MCU, but once they got going, it was fine. Like I was able to enjoy everything that I've seen so far. Some of it was a little bit rougher than others.
Sure.
Homecoming for one, but that's just because of the nature of the I'm not gonna say the cast, but like the characters and like the age that they're being portrayed at.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's just a byproduct of that. So yeah, like the fact that I've enjoyed everything I've seen so far is very telling for me. Just from this aspect of how well that they've done. This trilogy in particular, like I know I said that Homecoming was the bottom of the 3, but by no means does that mean it was a bad movie. It was still a very, very good movie. And if that's the bottom rung, and it's that bar is set high, you can kind of tell what I think about the Far From Home and No Way Home.
Yeah.
And kind of where the bar is going to be sitting for whatever comes next for the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah. No.
So I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do. But at the same time, I hope they break the mold a little bit, because that would be kind of nice.
I agree with that completely. And it's just this is, if nothing else, this is a real fun movie, and I'm glad that you have seen it. And I like that it makes you want to go back and watch the stuff that you didn't see before.
I mean, yeah, because
just because
between Yeah.
I just like that.
Just because it's all going to be good. Like the one, like I can tell you off the top of my head, one I had fully intended on seeing it while it was in theaters, but never actually got the chance to just because I'd been busy at work, was Black Panther, the first one.
Yep. That's
So,
definitely a good one to see.
A lot of these, I'm looking forward to seeing. So
very, very cool. I'm so glad that you got to watch this. Nizzbit, do you have anything you want to plug that you want to let people know about?
Not yet.
Okay.
Although a friend of mine, no, not yet.
Okay.
Because the other thing I was gonna plug, it's not anywhere close to being ready.
No problem.
But no, a few friends have a few things in the works that probably next time I'm on that they'll be doing, and I'll probably try to plug those then. But in the meantime, I have my other fun stuff I'm doing on my own, but mostly gaming. And then trying not to go crazy at work. But other than that, I mean, it's now I have more movie stuff to go watch that I should hopefully enjoy. So
excellent. Now, if you enjoy this show, I do record it live Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/TVstravis, and at youtube.com/@TVstravis. You can catch the live stream there, hang out, be in the chat room like a Stigma, like Skizix, like 9 of 12, and chat with us during the show. The show does come out as a podcast on Wednesdays everywhere you get your shows, including YouTube in a video form. So check that out. A subscription on YouTube also helps the channel grow. So if you can do that, that's great. You can find links to everything, including my Discord, if you want to come join those discussions there, at tvstravis.com. There's links for all my social media stuff, the Discord. I've got a merchandise store that I'm adding stuff to slowly here and there for this show, for another show I do called Those Were the Days. And there's a link to the Patreon, which is at patreon.com/WYHS. You can support the show there for as little as $1 an episode, help keep the lights on, keep the show running, keep me able to do things like my upcoming live edition of the show I will be doing at DragonCon 2024. That is solely happening because of my wonderful patrons. So if you can, if you are able to and interested in, you can go to Patreon and help out that way. If you can't, for whatever reason, that's fine. Listening to the show is more than I could ever hope for. So I appreciate that. tvstravis.com is the place to find all that. Now, next episode is going to be the return of my friend Drew Burris from The More You Nerd. And we're going to be talking about a mid-90s Camp Nowhere from 1994 with Christopher Lloyd. It is a Disney, but not a Disney kind of teenage comedy about a bunch of kids that they basically rent their own summer camp. It's a silly movie, but it was a fun trip down memory lane. So that's going to be something that Drew and I are talking about next week. That will not be live streamed. So if you are here for the live stream or you're listening to this, there won't be a live stream for the next couple of weeks as I'm going to be out of town. But I do have that show coming up, and then another good one after that. You'll just have to wait and find out. Those will be hitting the feeds. But until then, Nizzbit, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait till we do the next fun thing that we cover.
Yes, that would be very fun, because I know you and I have before we started this have talked about that. But
yep, we've got some stuff in the works, so you'll be back for sure. And I will be back next episode talking Camp Nowhere. But until then, just remember to enjoy your movies and be excellent to each other. This has been Wait You Haven't Seen.
Please, Scooby-Doo this shit.
How can you not? How can you not?